And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the My Pillow Studios, the My Store Studios of our very own A1 TV network. And Sharon, our first guest of the day, is with us, so you know what to do. Make him feel welcome.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Jim Pfaff, who is the president of the Conservative Caucus. Jim's political career stretches over 3 decades. He also served as chief of staff for the Colorado House Republican Caucus. He served as founder and executive director of Americans for Prosperity in Colorado, president of Colorado Family Institute, and a national representative for family policy councils at Focus on the Family. Jim served as chief of staff for 2 different congressmen, Congressman Tom Massie and Congressman Tim Huelskamp. Jim, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Glad to be back with you all. Thanks for having me.
Well, we want to talk about Trump and Elon Musk. This thing is getting to be a dynamic duo here pretty quick. It came up and all of a sudden they're on it, and you had some kind of excitement last night even with them, didn't you?
Well, we did. It's kind of interesting. So my friend Nick Sorter and I did an X Space. Of course, we were blowing it out. Like, people were really anticipating this thing. And so what we did is started up a space beforehand, let a lot of people come in. We ended up live streaming because of the technical issues that came up that delayed the start of the Trump and Musk interview. We ended up live streaming it, so that it allowed extra capacity, people to come in. So we enjoyed that. It was very interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But then afterwards, we had Alex Jones come in with us. So that was really interesting. We had nearly 1 million people that total that came in at any given time after the Trump Musk thing. So we had a really good time, and people are actually really excited about it, I think.
Well, kind of explain X Space. How is that better or different than just X?
Well, so X Spaces are very much like, sort of like, I should say, it's kind of like conference calls, or if you've ever had a telephone town hall that you've been participating in with someone. And what it does is you show it brings everybody into a room. It's a live discussion. You can have up to 8 people in an X Space that are live. And the way it presents itself is you see everyone's icon, their picture that is designed for their X handle. And everyone can mute themselves and open up and talk. You'll have a host and some co-hosts. And so you've got a real discussion. So we had a lot of people in there from J.R. Majewski and well, I can't even remember all who they were, but there are a lot of folks in there, folks that are working surrogates for the Trump campaign. And so you got 8 people at a time. You have a great discussion. It's really fun, and people can participate live through the app on their phone or even online through their web browser. And so I encourage people to get involved with X Spaces. I do them from time to time, and it's a really great opportunity to get and learn new information. And that's exactly the technology that Elon Musk used to have this interview with Donald Trump last night. And even though it had a rough beginning, it took some minutes to get everybody in after a DDoS attack, which is just, you had scammers throwing stuff at the X platform. But once they got it worked out, they had well over 1 million people in that room with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Wow. It was amazing.
Well, that is amazing. Now, this is not video. This is just audio?
It is audio, but it has a visual presentation because in the room you'll see the picture of the person that they use for their profile picture on their X handle. But yes, and the other visual thing is when someone is unmuted and talking, you can see one of those things moving up and down that shows that they're actually talking. So, but yes, it's mostly like a conference call, but it does have some visual aspect to it, which makes it interesting.
So 8 people at a time, how do you vet those people? How do you decide which 8 people get to be the speakers and, the rest, everybody else listens? I guess that's how it goes.
So someone is set up as the host. They're the one that starts the X Space, and they've got full control over everyone. They can bring people up, take them out, mute them, mute the whole room other than the host and the co-hosts. And the co-hosts have similar functionality as well, too. So it is really easy to vet people. Plus, as you're setting these up, you just ask people to come in and participate, ask them if they will participate, set it up ahead of time so that you've recruited a good group of people that'll be your core folks for discussing. I sometimes bring up an X Space just out of the blue, and because I'm really well known in the X Space area, folks will just show up. I'll have a few hundred people show up within 10, 15 minutes, and it's a fairly full room, and we have nice discussions, and it's kind of fun.
Well, I'm not sure that we can trust video anyway. The reason I bring that up is because we have this AI video thing going on with Kamala. So what's the truth there? Yes, the crowd was AI. No, the crowd wasn't AI. What's the truth? Do you know?
Well, it's kind of both ways. I mean, she has had some large crowds, just verifiably large crowds in some stadiums. And so there's some excitement on the Democrat side for this change, because I think that Democrats realized that Joe Biden's campaign was going into the tank. Now, they broke every Democrat principle in the world to replace him with Kamala Harris, and that's a discussion in and of itself. But she has had some large crowds. But that picture of the airplane outside the hangar was clearly generated AI somehow. And because you can see it both and a lot of people were pointing out the reflection on the aircraft engine and the bulkhead of the aircraft. But you could also see the images of the people. You could see white outlines around their heads and stuff. That was definitely an AI generated picture. I don't know precisely how it enhanced and if there was some smaller crowd that they added onto it or whatever, but there were definitely people added. So it's a hoax to say that all of her crowds are AI. I don't believe that. I mean, she has had crowds, but she's definitely promoting larger crowds in pictures that she's putting out there to try to represent what's happening with the campaign. So there is a mix of fake and real.
Oh, it's beyond me, this fake and real. We're always trying to figure out what's true and what isn't. And I guess that's the next question about X Space. Is it all real? I mean, you say there's 1 million people there. Were they all real people, or did we have some bots and trolls and, the whole 9 yards that happens with social media?
Well, there is still, I suspect, some botting that happens in certain people that put up X Spaces. And I've been in the X Space community since all the Twitter files dump. I was helping organize and coordinate the largest X Spaces that were going on at that time. We would have 10, 20,000 people in at a time, over 1 million, up to 2 million people. I was organizing and coordinating those way back in November of 2022, all the way through the beginning of the year in 2023. But I know that there are some that have done it and are still doing it. They've mostly gotten rid of that. But keep in mind, this was Elon Musk's space. So his engineers were greatly monitoring what's happening on his. That crowd was real. It was very real people. The other way it's real is once that space is done, the recording stays up and you can see the number of people watching it grow. So there were on the order of, just in the space alone, there were on the order of 10, 20 million people that were in it. Elon claims that up to 1 billion people either looked at that post or got into it. And that doesn't mean everyone listened to the whole thing. It was 2 hours long. But that just tells you the kind of interaction that was taking place here. And the Harris campaign was definitely worried about it because they put a big post saying how fake and horrible and rude and crude and, that big corporate interest. Elon Musk is talking to big corporate interest, Donald Trump, and they're going to destroy the world. They're worried about it. I think there was a lot of interaction. It was very positive. And all the response to it today has been good, other than the headlines, which the fake news media has been putting out, trying to say it was a horrible mess.
Well, including the Washington Times. I was surprised that the Washington Times had a rather negative headline about it.
Well, and in fairness, they were having that initial problem for about 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you this, I listened to the whole thing. and it was smooth. It went really, really well. This actually ended up net better than what Ron DeSantis went through when he tried to introduce his campaign on X Spaces, and that was a bit of a debacle. So, but this one worked really well.
Okay, so now we've got Elon Musk, Donald Trump on for 2 hours. What can two guys talk about for 2 hours that would interest the whole nation?
Well, they had a very wide-ranging discussion. They talked about threats abroad. They talked about electric vehicles and the oil and gas industry, which, Sharon, as you know, being from Nevada, which is the biggest state when it comes to mining and minerals and even just a little bit of oil, although there are other states that have much more. But that is a very, very critical part of our economy, particularly the oil and gas industry. I lived in Colorado for 20 years, working for Focus on the Family, and thereafter. It's hugely important. And Elon Musk makes the case, with Trump, he did, and Trump praised him for his electric vehicle development, but both of them agreed that it's kind of a life and death issue having the oil and gas industry be effective, because it's not just what you put in your car, it's what you use to heat your home. It's what you use to develop electricity, medical supplies, creating nitrogen fertilizers for farming. I mean, it's broad ranging what the oil and gas industry does. So they had some positive discussion about that. They talked about the economy. And actually, I'm 100% in for Donald Trump. But sometimes on the issue of inflation, Elon Musk brought in some very good things that enhanced and I think helped Donald Trump's policy on inflation. But these guys really focused on the economy and prosperity for individuals and for protection abroad. And then, of course, the immigration issue came up, and they had a broad discussion about that. And they both agree we need borders that matter for us to be safe in this country. And Donald Trump, I think, makes a rational assertion. There may have been 20 million people come across during the Biden-Harris administration. They're claiming in the 12 to 16 million. I mean, it's a really bad situation. Talked about deportation a little bit too. So but the upshot of all that is Donald Trump laid out very clearly his policy prescriptions, what he intends to do when he becomes president, how he intends to continue what he had accomplished and enhance upon it. And we hear nothing from Kamala Harris. They still have, as of this recording, they have nothing on their website of any policy prescription. And in fact, Kamala Harris is out saying that she will stand for things that she hotly opposed in the past. I mean, she's totally flip-flopping. And so when she does say anything, which is very limited. So very interesting. Donald Trump's the real deal. Elon Musk and a lot of people that have been involved in Silicon Valley work, they understand it too, although there are many still radical leftists that are supporting Harris. We got an interesting change taking place.
Yes, we do. And speaking of changes, just wanted to mention this a little bit. I was out in the desert this weekend watching the meteor shower, and we saw SpaceLink. Amazing to see those satellites just trailing one another across the sky. How does this fit into X Space and all of the other technology? It looks amazing. What is it really doing up there? Or did they even discuss SpaceLink when they were talking?
Yeah, by the way, you're talking about Starlink, just to correct you. I apologize. Starlink,
great.
Yeah.
Starlink. Well, it looks like Star.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Starlink is actually, I believe, one of the greatest technologies that we've ever seen in the world. We don't talk about it very often. I mean, you hear the news reports, but people don't talk about it in this deep way of how it's radically going to change how people connect with one another. Eventually, we have rumors that Elon's thought about doing satellite phones to replace your iPhone or whatever, and he may get into that market eventually. But what I find very interesting about this technology is what you've seen, for example, when Ukraine needed help early on in that war. He opened it up and allowed them to be able to communicate there. We've seen in natural disasters where he's opened up Starlink to be able to help emergency people coordinate and get things taken care of when big natural disasters have happened. I mean, it is a radically innovative technology. And what's really key about it in my mind is that you've got 200, 300, or 400 gigabit download speeds. Many people still don't have those kinds of speeds in their home, or they don't attempt to pay for it. But now these speeds are going to be available all over the world. That's the most amazing part of the technology, because here in the United States, where you've had a lot of development in broadband internet technology, wired or otherwise, now through the air, you're going to be able to get it with very low latency, meaning the time it takes from requesting the thing to come down to when it gets to when it starts downloading to you, and you're going to get that worldwide. African countries can be radically helped in their economies just because you could have people in rural areas be able to do business in ways that they've never been able to do before. So I think it's a really innovative technology. And even though you saw those things in the air, most of them you can't see. He has developed in the latter issue of their satellites up there something that takes the reflectivity away so that doesn't cause any problems in the sky. And right now, it is hard to notice. You got to look really hard for it. Certainly, you're going to see it in areas like Puyallup, if you're out that far, where you're really out in the middle of nowhere. In fact, I knew people with the National Park Ranger Service that were looking at cattle leases up north in the northern part of Nevada that were still finding Oregon Trail tracks because they never got washed out. That's how remote you can get. If you're there, you probably can see that. But this is going to radically transform economies around the world, and it might be a real boost for freedom if we could keep the politicians out of the way.
All right. With that, we're going to go to our sponsor who keeps us in the way. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commando Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, NetTalk America, and AM, FM 24/7. I'm Sharon Angle here with my co-host, Rick Trader. We've been talking with our guest, Jim Pfaff, who's president of the Conservative Caucus. We've been talking about the Trump, Elon, Musk, X space, and we'll talk more about that after this break, so don't go away.
Okay, I'm just going to cover my camera for a few seconds. Makes it easier to find break when we edit the show.
And I'm a techie geek. You shouldn't have got me going on that. Sorry.
I could tell. No. I could tell you were more excited about that.
I really wanted to know about it since I saw it.
Yeah. Well, Bill Kristol said that both of these guys were boring, and I reposted his thing on X saying, oh, yeah, what he finds boring is guys that build reusable spaceships and electric vehicles and guys who build corporate, anyway, it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. And once again, we do want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Coming to you from the My Pillow Studios, the My Store Studios of the AUN TV network. So what's following up the Conservative Commandos on AUN tonight? Well, the Stone Zone with Roger Stone. Dinesis is his podcast. The Joe Messina Show. More Money with Stephen Moore. James O'Keefe Media. Washington Watch with Tony Perkins. Colonel Alan West, Steadfast and Loyal. Hey, all that and more right here on the AUN TV network. Jim Pfaff is our guest. He's the president of the Conservative Caucus. We're having a great conversation about a lot of things. I mean, the Musk-Trump X thing yesterday, Kamala Harris, Starlink, we're all over the map. Hey, Jim, thank you for holding through that break. We really do appreciate your time.
No, glad to be here with you guys.
Hey, Jim, for people that don't know, X Space, is that part of X? Used to be Twitter?
Yes, exactly. And Elon's been very good. I'm trying to be very disciplined at not saying Twitter anymore because Twitter 2.0, which is Elon, is now X. And it's been a very positive thing for really the world, in my opinion, certainly for conservatives, because we're still seeing reports of YouTube and Facebook shutting everyone down. Elon Musk has truly built a free speech platform, and it's had a radical and positive transformation in our discussion here in the United States. But yeah, we call it X now, and this X Spaces technology is amazing, and people should get involved. In fact, I'd encourage them, if they want to learn more about it, follow me at Jim Pfaff, JIMPFAFF, at Jim Pfaff, or at TC Caucus, and that's our organization handle on X.
Jim, talk about conversions. What about the conversion of Elon Musk? I mean, my gosh, 5 years ago, I never thought of this guy as anyone that would support Donald Trump or conservatism. I mean, he almost reminds me of what Churchill once said: if you're not a liberal by the age of 20, you have no heart. But if you're not a conservative by the age of 40, you have no brain. So is Elon reaching his 40s?
Well, in a sense, yes. I will say he's been pretty consistent in his way of thinking politically and on economics and policy. I don't think you can call him like a radical right winger at all. He really is kind of center right, but I think he has shifted right. Mm-hmm. While also, though, he's fond of posting up this graphic that shows the whole political spectrum moving past him to the left, while he's just staying in the same place. I'm really of the opinion that he has had some transformation, but he's been actually pretty consistent. But the real conversion that's taken place is what happened after he did that interview with the Babylon Bee. And it's really interesting because it wasn't but days later that Babylon Bee, by making, I forget the name of the person in the transgender guy in the National Health Service, gave him Man of the Year award, even though you're supposed to call him a woman. And they got kicked off of Twitter. And when Twitter cut them off, Elon, that really kind of got him very frustrated. And I think it's what got him interested and started to think about buying Twitter. So the real transformation that's happened with him is recognizing that all this idealism around the left's previous stance, supposedly for free speech, has radically changed, and he's gotten to the point where he cannot accept that anymore. And I think that transformation has happened in many areas of Silicon Valley. Oddly, I mean, who'd have thought that Silicon Valley would turn at least a bit center right, particularly on this issue? It's happening. That transformation is happening.
15 million people they got last night. He said between 10 and 20, we'll take 15. I mean, that's one heck of an audience. Do you believe that this new technology of X space and other type online situations or formats are going to be able to work around the mainstream media? And Jim, I've said for years and years and years, there's three groups in America. You got the 20% on the right, their mind's made up, they're not going to go anywhere. You got the 20% on the left, same thing, their mind's made up, you're not going to change it. But we need to reach that 60% in the middle. The problem is right now that 60% in the middle is getting their news and information from all the wrong sources, from MSNBC, ABC, CBS, CNN. A lot of the big social media platforms are certainly left-leaning. So do you see this new kind of technology a way to work around the mainstream media? And the other thing, Jim, I'll make this a combined question. Are moderates tuning in to X Space to listen to Donald Trump and Elon Musk?
So I would say that a lot of people on the left have abandoned Twitter than X. They after Elon bought it, they started to leave. Many of them are starting to come back. There is a healthy exchange from healthy meaning robust, I should say. There's a robust exchange of people on the left who are on X, saying their opinion and putting together X spaces of their own to talk about things from their perspective. Two main people whom I'm acquainted with are Ed and Brian Krasenstein. They have very large followings on X, and they are totally of the left. They're actually going really nutsoid crazy right now, in my opinion. So there is a robust discussion there, but you do have a lot of people on the right who are still involved there, but the most interesting spaces on X are ones where you do have people on the left and the right arguing with one another over issues. I do that all the time. Now, sometimes people get a little, I don't know, emotional about it. I don't tend to get emotional. I try to give a rational debate. That doesn't mean I don't get passionate, because I do. I worked with Dr. James Dobson for some years. And whenever someone in the public policy department would put these rational reasoned response to some crazy thing people on the left were saying about him, he really got really frustrated with that. He says, "What are you doing? We go passion for passion in here. We're not trying to be reasoned back to people who aren't reasonable." And so I think you have to have a robust, passionate response to the left. But you can also get into screaming and yelling and just calling names and there's probably a little bit of that happens. But it's a very positive debate. I think it does to answer your question, get around the mainstream media. And I think what just happened last night with Musk and Trump is a good example. Those guys talked, millions of people have listened to that thing even since. And the mainstream media is going nuts. I don't think they recognize that really did strike a chord with people. But that's not the only debate. There have been many others like that have changed the paradigm of how people get their information.
Jimmy, one phrase I hate is yes, but I have to use it here. Yes, but the only way for Donald Trump to get elected is he has to get a big slice of the pie from the people that are in the middle, the intermediates, the moderates, a lot of the people who only vote once every 4 years, if that. Is this a way for him to reach that group?
In part, I will say I have been concerned over the last week or two since Kamala Harris became more official as the Democrat nominee. I would like to have seen him in about 5 or 6 more events than before. I think that's one way that he gets to them, because you can't but report on it. People will go to whatever media outlet is playing those rallies because of interest about it. And it's one of the reasons that initially when he got shot at, it really affected a lot of people because it was a Saturday and a lot of people were flipping around the TV, seeing what was going on. So that's another way. But then he needs to do as many of these debates as possible, because when you're in these adversarial environments, which he handles very well, then you get a chance for moderate people or people that don't want to align with the party for whatever reason, even if they're conservative or liberal. It gives them an opportunity to see how he responds. And frankly, in that comparison, you put Kamala Harris and him together in a debate, I think he wins that thing almost every time. She's not very smart. She's not at all articulate. She gets a little whiny, and Hillary Clinton did that in 2016. I think that's a good matchup for Donald Trump, and that gets to that middle of the road voter as well.
All right, well, let's talk for a minute. And actually, do you have time? Because I think we've kept you about as long as we promised, and we don't want to overdo our stay with you.
I am gonna have to go in a moment, but that's good.
All right, well, let's wrap this up with this. Kamala Harris, is what you're seeing, all these large rallies with her, is that AstroTurf? I mean, it seems to me that they're trying to duplicate what Trump has been doing for 6 years, drawing these huge crowds. And now the Democrats somehow, some way have seemed to bring larger crowds together for Kamala Harris. Is this AstroTurf or is it real?
I believe there's a degree of AstroTurf in it. In candor and in fairness, I think that the Democrats were very worried about where Joe Biden was, and I think some energy comes with the initial relief that maybe someone else can come in and do better. That's a natural human reaction to politics when you have people that you want to support. I do not believe she can sustain it, though. She's not inspiring enough to sustain it. With all of Donald Trump's faults that people try to point out, he's able to sustain it because he's always interesting. He's not repetitive. Oh, he'll repeat some certain things that he wants to communicate with people, but he's not repetitive and boring. I don't think she's able to sustain that in the long run. So initially, yeah, I think some of it's fair, but there's definitely AstroTurf. I guarantee you certain union organizations are paying for people to show up. I'm certain that happened in Las Vegas. As Sharon knows so well, the SEIU union there, they're radical. Like they give their people time off. They get to the casino owners and they'll go after them if they don't allow their people the flexibility to get to things like this. They work it hard. And that gets duplicated in other parts of the country. But so initially, it's a combination of AstroTurf and some very real response. I don't think it can be maintained for her in the long run, though. That's just my personal opinion right now.
Jim, I want to thank you for joining us here on Conservative Commandos. And Jim, I have to apologize. I think we've been pronouncing your name incorrectly. You're like
Pfaff.
Pfaff.
Pfaff, yes. But
Okay.
hey, no, that's okay. I have no, when people see the spelling of my name, I have no reasonable expectation for them to easily get it there. And even though I aspire to be the most well-known person in the United States as soon as possible, I'm not. So no, it's no problem at all. And listen, I have great respect for you guys and your commitment to conservative principles. So it's no problem at all. And thank you for concern with it.
Well, speaking of conservative principles, tell our friends and listeners and viewers out there about the Conservative Caucus and how they could find out more.
Sure. We were founded in 1974. We're celebrating our 50th year. In fact, we're going to have a 50-year celebration in Northern Virginia near Washington, D.C. in October. Howard Phillips founded this organization when he left the Nixon administration. We are the conservative grassroots organization. We actually do real grassroots. That's what we're about. And we're going to continue this on. I've just come on this year to take the organization over. And if people would like to find out more, they want to find out about our 50th anniversary, or want to find out how we're supporting Donald Trump or doing grassroots. If they want to learn grassroots, they just need to go to theconservativecaucus.org. That's theconservativecaucus.org.
Well, Jim, again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Take care and God bless.
God bless you all too. Appreciate it and enjoy being with you.
And you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos with Sharon Engel. I'm Rick Trader. On the other side, Dr. Rich Swire will join us. He's a conservative with a conscience. He's going to tell a story that when he posted about the Twitter feed last night, or the X feed last night, automatically Facebook pulled it down within seconds. Dr. Rich is going to join us to talk about that story right after this break. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you all. Appreciate you guys. Rich and Sharon.
You. Thanks, Jim.
Always enjoyable. Yeah. I get to share my Nevada memories with Sharon.
We should have asked about your name. I'm so sorry, Jim, but I won't forget again. Jim Pfaff. Pfaff.
Yeah. No worries at all. It's actually interesting. That's my family. That's my dad's fault, I guess, sort of, or his dad's. It is Pfaff in German, and famous sewing machine brand. You'll remember, Sharon. Yes. I mean, I do.
Yeah, so, that's why I pronounced it Pfaff, is because I remembered that. I thought it was spelled the same way.
Yeah, well, Jim, we got to have you more often, and we'll really get it down. I promise you, get the name down.
Well, hey, you'll Jim, notice I don't complain, and I really appreciate it. But I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Take
care.
All right, we'll talk soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.